Hey everyone, welcome back to the vlog. Unfortunately, this is a pretty brutal one of my worst sessions ever. I think it was a combination of me not properly raising pre-flop and isolating with some premium holdings, but also just running really awful. I feel like I got it in good a lot of the time, and my opponent would end up getting there on the turn with like two pair or a set, trips, things like that. So, brutal session overall, hoping to forget about it, but obviously learn from it first and take what I've learned into the next sessions and hopefully have a better one coming up. Appreciate you guys watching and I hope you enjoy. I sit down and get comfortable, and I bought in for $500 in this session. I have pocket jacks in one of my first playable hands, and I'm in the big blind. Under the gun straddles for $5, which I believe is the max in this game, and middle position calls. The button looks to be reaching for some chips to put in a raise, and sure enough, he does bump it up to $20. I miss a big opportunity here to raise and try to isolate this pot with my pocket jacks, which I would prefer to be in that situation versus going 4 players to the flop, which ends up happening when under the gun and middle position both put in the call for $20. It's about $80 in the pot right now, and it's likely one of my opponents has an ace, king, or queen, so I'm just hoping we can avoid any of those, but the flop comes out jack 10 ace rainbow and we drill the set. This is a great flop for us, considering that there's a lot of cards that hit my opponent's range. I go ahead and check over to the aggressor and hope for a c-bet. 3 of us do check over to the button, and he puts in the c-bet for $40. I'm making a decision here if I want to put in the raise or just call, and I have some thoughts about both. I do think someone definitely hit their range here. I don't want to scare off top pair too hard, but I also want to charge those draws like the straight. Hands like ace queen, ace king even for the button are some of the hands I'm trying to target here with raising, and I do think they would come along for the ride if I bet, so I go ahead and raise it to 120. Under the gun and middle position fold pretty quickly, and it's over to the button here who has about 220 behind. The only hands I'm behind right now are king, queen, and aces, so I'm feeling confident about what we have. Considering the button only has about 220 behind, it's highly likely that he's either going to go all in or fold. I doubt he would just make a call in this spot. The button does end up going all in for $220. This raise tells me it's likely he has a holding like king, queen, or maybe even aces, which if it was the case, we'd be drawing extremely thin to the full house. But part of me is hoping that maybe he has top pair or maybe 2 pair and we are in decent shape. Really hoping he has something like ace king and he's just trying to get me to fold or maybe call with ace queen or something. So I do put in the call, and sure enough he does show king queen offsuit. It's kind of a cooler, but we do decide to run it twice, so I'm just hoping we can pair the board on one of them or maybe even hit a jack. First board comes out queen 9, second board comes out 5-6. We don't hit our paired board, we don't hit the jack, and we lose this pretty large pot to start the session. If I made a large enough raise pre-flop after he opened for 20 on the button, I believe with king-queen offsuit, it's likely he would have folded. But I'm just going to tell myself since he was in position on the button, it's likely he would have called me anyway and we would have had the same result, just to make myself feel better. We lose about $300 and we're going on to the next hand. Not too long goes by and we pick up ace-6 suited in the cutoff. I have about 500 behind now. I did top off my chips. I opened to $15 and the button calls. Small blind and under the gun put in the call as well, so I don't have much respect on my open it looks like at this table, but I have a decent hand in the cutoff and I'm hoping we see some hearts. 4 of us are going to this flop with about a $60 pot, and the flop comes out 8-5-4 rainbow. Checks over to me, and we do have a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw to the nut flush, so I go ahead and bet $20. Trying to gauge where I'm at and maybe fold out some higher cards, I see small blind raise instantly to $100 and under the gun folds. This is a pretty large bet. I'd have to put in $80 at a chance to win $260, so it's not terrible odds, but I don't think I have enough equity in this hand to continue, so I go ahead and fold. We lose about $35 and the small blind shows us 5-4 suited, so we were very much behind. About 40 minutes go by, not much action. We finally pick up a playable hand here with ace king off in the big blind, 440 behind, and the straddle is on. It folds over to the small blind who puts in the call for $5. I go ahead and raise it up to $30 considering that there is a limper and a straddle. I think $30 is appropriate in this case with ace king off. Under the gun folds. And action is now on the small blind who has been playing quite aggressive throughout the night with a pretty wide range. So when he puts in the call for $30, I'm not surprised. We're heads up going to a flop. Nothing's really been going my way tonight, hoping we can just make a pair and take down a medium-sized pot to get some confidence back. Fortunately, two tens and an 8 come out with two clubs, not even holding a club. We both check it, not feeling too great in this hand at this point. Jack of diamonds comes out on the turn, so straights are a possibility now. As I said earlier, this player is quite loose and aggressive, so he could have any two cards at this point. With ace king, I'm just not feeling good enough to continue even though it's only a $30 bet. My gut tells me even for just 30 bucks, I don't want to put any more money into this pot. I feel like he has something, and sure enough, he does flash a 10 of diamond. We lose another $30 and these small losses are slowly adding up. On the next hand, we pick up another very strong one. It's ace queen off in the small blind. I have about 410 behind. It folds over to the cutoff, who hasn't been playing too many pots, so I consider him a relatively tight player at this table. He does raise it to $12. I'm expecting the cutoff to call or raise, considering he is a wide player and he doesn't like to fold his hands. After a few seconds of thinking, he decides he wants to get in on this pot, puts in the call for $12, and I miss another opportunity to raise with a pretty strong hand. Unfortunately, big blind calls as well, with 4 players going to a flop. Going to the flop with 3 other players with ace queen offsuit is not the best case scenario for me, but I do think my hand is relatively well hidden, and the flop comes out ace 9 10 rainbow, about $45 in the middle. I check because I feel like we have a lot of deception with this hand here, not expecting me to have the ace most likely in this case, but the 9 of clubs comes out on the turn. Now, with how I've been running tonight, I know this is definitely an awful card for me. People just keep making trips and sets into me all night, even though I have top pair. And part of that's on me for not raising pre-flop enough and also betting more aggressively on the flop. Big blind bets out for $35, which is an interesting bet here, considering he wasn't the aggressor pre-flop. And it tells me he has a pretty strong hand. However, I think there are a lot of draws out there, and I also have a pretty strong hand with 2 pair and a very good kicker, so I put in the call here for $35. I'm really hoping my opponent has ace rag in this case, hence why he limped into the pot, and my worst case scenario would be obviously he's holding a 9 here. Also hoping that maybe he's on a straight draw or a flush draw. Not exactly sure what I put him on here, but I'm just really hoping there's a weaker ace that might call me down to the river and we get some showdown value. The river comes out a 10 of diamonds, so we still have 2 pair here, and we have a very strong kicker with the queen. I'm more than happy to check and go to showdown here, and he checks as well, but he shows jack 9 off. Pretty mad at myself here for not raising more pre-flop and getting those hands to fold, but I learned my lesson on that one and we lost about 50 bucks. I end up topping off my chips again, and it limps over to me here in the hijack about an hour later. I have ace king suited and I raised to $25 pre-flop. I think I've yet to win a hand at this point, or maybe one small one earlier in the session, and I've been kind of fluctuating chips, but that's mostly because I've been trying to top off around the $500 mark because this game was pretty deep. Under the gun and middle position both call my $25 open, and we're 3 players now going to a flop. Really hoping a spade or 2 comes off on this flop and makes our life a lot easier going forward, but unfortunately it's a 10-9 deuce, all hearts, pot's about $75, under the gun and middle position check. Considering I'm not holding a heart, I just go ahead and check. I want to be cautious and make sure I control this pot. I think we still have a shot at winning this one, considering both my opponents checked, but the 8 of clubs comes off on the turn. Both players check over to me, which kind of shows a bit of weakness. I might have missed my opportunity to bet there and maybe get them to fold, but I want to play it safe. King of diamonds comes out on the river and under the gun bets $30. Middle position folds, and I don't think about it too much in this situation because I have a pretty strong hand considering the action given on the previous streets. So I call and he shows pocket 8s for a set. It's another $55 we lose on a pretty unfortunate hand. About an hour goes by, I take some small losses along the way, nothing super interesting. I have only about $245 behind, not really feeling like topping off. I'm a little bit tilted at this point, and I finally pick up a good hand here, pocket queens. I raise it up to $15. I get 1 caller and cutoff raises to 30. This is definitely another situation I should be raising, and considering I'm so short stacked, putting it all in might have not been the worst play either, considering this table's pretty gambly and I think I could have got a couple calls. I end up just calling with the hijack, and now we're 3 players to a flop with 9, 4, 5, 2 hearts. Pot's about $90 at this point, and I go ahead and bet aggressively here with my overpair, $50 onto this board into 2 other players. Hijack folds, and the cutoff jams instantly for $215 roughly, which is the remainder of what I have. I'm not sure why I don't put in the call sooner in this situation. I don't have that many chips behind, and I have a very strong overpair. I'm worried that he might have some random two pair like 5-4, which I've seen him play a lot of tonight, so obviously that's not a good way to think of the game because this hand's completely different from the previous ones, but I'm also not very confident in this session considering I've been running into a lot of three of a kinds, trips, sets, things like that, so I'm a little bit nervous to do it, but I do put in the call, not many chips left behind anyway, and we're going to go to a turn. 10 of diamonds comes out on the turn, 3 of clubs on the river, and the cutoff shows 10-9 offsuit. I think we got it in good, but unfortunately he did get there and we lose the rest of our chips. Alright everyone, that wraps up my 2-3 session in the Lucky Lady. It was sometime in late March I played that and ended up losing $1,000 in that session. Really brutal overall. Flopping a set on the first hand I played, and then the opponent flops a straight, and also just having decent holdings throughout the night, getting it in good, and my opponent's getting there on the turn or the river with a set, trips, or two pair. Pretty unfortunate how we ran and also how I played pre-flop in a lot of spots, but I'm going to learn from this video, hopefully forget about it soon, and then go on to the next session. Hope it's a bit better. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate it.